Part 70. Adorable Baby, The Miracle Doctor is So Awesome. Author, 955. Chapter 691. Goose Whitting turned over and lay on his back next to her. After a while, he said in a hoarse voice, "This is the seed of the baby flower. Water it with love and starlight, and you can raise a little baby." What flower? Shenyazi suspected that there was something wrong with his ears. Baby Goose Whitting's eyes were smiling and his voice was so pleasant. Shenyazi felt weak at the sight of him and spat at him, "Don't call me that." It was shameful for him to call her Zhizi before, but now he actually called her Bayo Bayo. How embarrassing it would be if Ning Ning and the others heard this. Goose Whitting raised his eyebrows slightly. "I mean, these are the seeds of the baby flower. But if you like me to call you baby, I dash." Shenyazi hurriedly covered his mouth. Knowing that he had misunderstood, it was already embarrassing enough, but he still wanted to deliberately tease her. How abominable. Goose Whitting was amused by her shy little expression and laughed loudly. The hot breath from her mouth spread on the palm of her hand, making her feel strangely itchy. She quickly took her hand away. Goose Whitting did not let her go, hugging her and calling her in her ear, "Baby, baby, baby." Goose Whitting, Shenyazi was really angry with embarrassment. "Okay, let's stop barking." Goose Whitting gave up as soon as he saw it was good. If he really off his baby, that would be bad. But Shenyazi was still very annoyed, so he kicked him and climbed to the side, far away from him. Goose Whitting rolled over, trapped her in a trap like a fool, buried his head in her belly, and rubbed her softly. "Zhizi, I was wrong, don't be angry with me, okay?" He grabbed her hand and slapped himself in the face. Shenyajin didn't know how to bear to hit him. Before he could hit him, he retracted in pain, "Be serious and tell me what's going on with this baby flower." She thought this magical setting only existed in novels, but she didn't expect that she actually encountered it in reality. Can she not be curious? In some places, some couples who are unable to conceive a child will buy a baby flower seed at a high price and water it with love and starlight. After a period of time, the seed will sprout, bloom and bear fruit. The fruit is about the size of a basketball. When it is fully ripe, the fruit will split open and a successfully conceived baby will be inside. Goose Whitting lay on Shenyazi's lap and explained slowly. Is there still such an operation? This world of spiritual energy recovery is truly full of wonders. Shenyazi looked at the seed in his hand again, and his mentality had completely changed. "Zhizi, do we want to try?" Goose Whitting said in a coaxing tone, "create a baby that belongs to both of us." This proposal sounds very tempting. It's just, she is still a baby herself, so she doesn't want to raise a child now. Goose Whitting couldn't laugh or cry when he heard what she was thinking. "Okay, then wait until you want it." The next day, Shenyazi took Ning Ning and Lin Nan back to the orphanage, moved a lot of things from the car, and distributed them to the children one by one. The orphanage is completely different now than it was a few months ago. All the buildings have been renovated, and the several houses look beautiful and well maintained. The children's accommodation and living conditions have also been greatly improved. Everyone looks a little fatter, with more smiles on their faces, and their eyes are bright, as if there is light. The yard has been transplanted with lawns and many fruit trees. Children can play games on the lawn without worrying about falling. The fruit trees were all adopted by the children, with name tags hanging on them, one for each person, to see who could take care of the fruit trees best. Shenyazi found it interesting and proposed a reward: whose fruit tree produces the most and best fruit in the end, I will grant him or her a wish. Okay. The children gathered around her and cheered. Mother Lin, the dean, was watching with the smile on her face never falling. Eating dumplings for lunch, everyone participated in making dumplings, and the atmosphere was fun. Mother Lin cooked a bowl of noodles for Shenyazi alone, with a poached egg in it. This is to celebrate her birthday. Shenyazi picked a chopstick and put it into his mouth. In his memory, his mother would cook her a bowl of noodles on her birthday, but that was a long time ago. She hasn't had it for more than 10 years. At first taste, her eyes couldn't help but get wet. She hurriedly used the action of eating noodles to push back the tears in her eyes. In the end, she ate the entire bowl of noodles and even the soup. She also ate a lot of dumplings given to her by the children. Although I was a little overwhelmed, I was very happy. After eating the dumplings, the children were led by the older children to take a nap. Sisters Hizzy, you won't sneak away while we are sleeping, right? 8-year-old Lin Jiajia asked her, raising her head. She has a pale face and a thin body. She is the only child who can't grow well no matter how hard she tries. An 8-year-old looks like a 5 or 6-year-old child. It is probably a disease brought in from the mother's womb. Lin Jiajia was abandoned at the door of the orphanage. She was only a few months old at the time. She was wrapped in swaddling clothes and had no identification items. The mother of the dean decided to give the child her last name. Most of the children in the courtyard have the surname Lin, that's how they got there. Jia means newly born reed. Reed is a tenacious plant that often grows in a large area along the river. It has strong vitality, so the dean's mother gave her such a name, hoping that she can thrive like a reed. However, this is just a beautiful wish after all. This child has always been frail and sickly, suffering from serious and minor illnesses all year round. Even on this hot day, her hands are still cold. Shenyazi touched her head, quietly gave her a candy, and winked at her, "Don't worry, I won't sneak away." Lin Jiajia returned to the dormitory, lay down on the bed, pulled the quilt over her head, and grinned immediately when she saw in her hand a wine-filled chocolate wrapped in exquisite sugar paper, her favorite candy. The next moment, however, the cold aura that was both familiar and scary to her filled the air and enveloped her. She immediately closed her eyes and remained motionless. "Who gave you the candy?" the cold voice sounded in her ears. Lin Jiajia didn't say anything. She held the candy in her palms, put her hands into fists on her chest, and closed her eyes tightly, as if she had fallen asleep. "Let me guess, it's your favorite sister's Hizzy, right? I'm obviously the one who's been with Xiao Jiajia all the time, so why is she the one you like the most? Tell me, should I let her go completely? Disappear into this world?" Lin Jiajia opened her eyes instantly. They were dark, clear, and indifferent, completely different from the innocence she had when she was in front of others. "You are not allowed to touch her." Her lips opened and closed silently. "Why should I listen to you, huh?" Under the grapevine trellis in the yard, Shenyazi and Mother Lin were sitting on stone benches, while Ning Ning was swinging not far away, giggling. After watching for a while, Lin Yufan got down to business. "Zhizi, a couple came to the courtyard a few days ago and said they planned to adopt a child. In the end, they fell in love with Jiajia. They originally said that they would go through the formalities and take Jiajia away that day. Yes, but I still want to ask your opinion. Adorable baby, the miracle doctor is so awesome." Author, 955. Chapter 692. "Aunt Lin, how are you doing with that couple?" Shenyazi was more concerned about this. "I saw that the couple had good temperaments, they talked in a friendly manner, and their family conditions were good. They had 3 houses in the city." Lin Yufan talked about the situation when the couple came to see the child. He finally said, "I think if Jiajia follows them, he will be able to have a family in the future. It will be great to have parents to care for him." Shenyazi felt something was wrong. "Aunt Lin, do they know that Jiajia is not in good health?" "Yes, I know, I told them, but they said that Jiajia is a child they like and they are willing to adopt him. Poor health is not a big problem, just take good care of him. They are not short of money, they are just short of money." "A child?" Shenyazi thought for a moment and said, "What does Jiajia mean?" Is she willing to be with that couple? Jia should be willing, right, Lin Yufan said subconsciously. Although the conditions in the orphanage are now better, it is still an orphanage. How can it compare to having a complete family? I'll ask Jia. If she is willing, then I'll be happy for her too. Just at this moment, the children woke up one after another, put on their clothes and ran out one by one. Shen Yizi waved to Lin Jia. The little girl was wearing a light green dress that she had bought for her before. Her skin was white and transparent, and her facial features seemed to be carefully drawn, delicate and pressed. Due to her frail body, she does not jump around like other children, but walks slowly, like a little lady. Shen Yizi waited for her to come over and touched her head. Who expected that she would avoid him, and he couldn't help but be a little surprised. This child has always been close to her, so why are they so repelled when she wakes up? Lin Jiajia's eyes dimmed, she bit her lip, but she didn't say what she wanted to say. Shen Yizi took her aside and asked, "Did Jiajia just have a nightmare?" Lin Jiajia shook her head. The little girl who was always chattering in front of her in the past was now so dull and silent that Shen Yizi always felt that something was wrong. After thinking about it, she guessed that it was probably because the parents wanted to adopt her, right? Jia, if you don't want to go with those uncles and aunts, you can always stay here, this is your home. To Shen Yizi's expectation, Lin Jia said, "Sisters Hizi, I am willing. I want a real family, and I want my parents." Shen Yizi touched her head and said, "Okay." This time the little girl did not refuse her touch. When leaving, the children all held Shen Yizi's hand and were reluctant to let go. Only Lin Jia did not show up. Shen Yizi hugged them and promised them, "I will come to see you when I have time in the future, okay?" Originally she wanted to visit them once a week, but thinking that school was about to start and her working hours were too unstable to guarantee that she would be free every week, she decided not to let them have fun in vain. You can only try to take out as much time as possible. As she was leaving in the car, Shen Yizi seemed to feel something. When she turned around, she saw Lin Jia running out with tears on her face. She was shocked and shouted to stop the car. "Jia, what's wrong? Are you feeling uncomfortable somewhere?" Shen Yizi asked while wiping her tears. Lin Jia shook her head and was so choked that she couldn't speak. She just kept digging into her arms and hugging her neck with great strength. Shen Yizi felt sad and patted her back, "Be good, don't cry. It's not like I won't come back after I leave. I will visit you often in the future." "Well, Zizi, hiccup, sister, you want hiccup, be good. Jia will miss you." Lin Jia finally let go of her and wiped her eyes. Shen Yizi wanted to give some more advice, but suddenly she felt a cold breath coming over her, which was so cold that it penetrated her bones. She couldn't help but shiver in the summer, and a layer of small particles formed on her skin. Lin Jia suddenly changed her expression and quickly distanced herself from her. "Sisters Hizi, please leave quickly. I'm going back." After saying that, she ran away, as if someone was chasing her. Shen Yizi couldn't help but feel funny. The child's face was so changeable. After getting in the car, Shen Yizi looked back and saw a young man in red robes standing there, with an evil face and evil eyes. He was looking at her coldly, with an undisguised look in his eyes. Murderous intent. She was startled. When she tried to take a closer look, she saw that the figure of the man was distorted like a ripple of water, then faded and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Who is he? Yaoguang University. At the beginning of the school year, the campus is full of people. The playground is especially lively because there is a basketball game going on the basketball court at the moment. Sophomore junior Xiao Jinglan made a handsome dunk, causing screams outside the court. He landed firmly on the ground, and Gu Tian's, who failed to intercept the ball, raised his middle finger, full of contempt. This arrogant attitude instantly ignited Gu Tian's anger. He slapped the basketball that rolled in front of him, rushed forward and grabbed Xiao Jinglin's collar. "Xiao Jinglin, you, a loser who was exiled from my family, what qualifications do you have to be arrogant in front of me?" Even though he was grabbed by the collar, Xiao Jinglin did not show any embarrassment at all. He smiled and said, "Gu Tians, no matter how useless I am still better than you. You are not even as good as me, a useless person." "You," Gu Tians was completely angry and hit him with his fist. At this moment, there was a cry of exclamation. But the basketball Gu Tians just threw flew out of the court and hit a passing girl. If this turns out to be true, it will be a disaster for girls. This girl is none other than Shen Yazi, who strolled into the campus. Now that her cultivation has reached perfection, how sharp are her five senses? If he could be hit by a basketball, it would be better to hit him with a piece of tofu. Amid the incredulous gazes of everyone, she raised her hand lightly and caught the basketball. With a flip of her wrist, the basketball became so obedient that it spun around on her thin white fingertips. A series of movements are like flowing clouds and flowing water, and are very handsome. It caused many girls to scream. Gaining a wave of reputation points, Shen Yazi curled her lips and threw the ball back with her backhand. Whether Gu Tians could catch it was not within her scope of consideration. Anyway, when he threw the ball over, he didn't think about whether it would hit anyone. But she did save some strength. After all, she couldn't do such a thing as smashing people to death in public. When the person is far away, everyone will react. "Ah, that's Shen Yazi, I want to ask her for an autograph." A group of people cheered and chased after me. Shen Yazi, trapped in the siege. She is at best a newcomer who has just entered the entertainment industry. Even though she played the third female lead in The Power of Heaven, hasn't the show not been aired yet? Why is it so popular? The poster handed over by a girl gave her the answer. The poster shows exactly how she and Yan Ran looked in the MV. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Adorable baby, the miracle doctor is so awesome. Author, 955. Chapter 693. Shen Yazi, I really like your appearance in the MV of My Home Ran Ran, and you sing beautifully, especially the scene at the beginning. I was amazed at that time. Originally I thought you were not suitable, but after watching it, I felt that no one could interpret that feeling better. I am really amazed by you. Can you sign this for me? The girl's eyes were shining and she looked at her with excitement. Shen Yazi realized that it was because of the MV. She didn't care about it after the previous filming, and she didn't need to worry about the subsequent production. Just before school started, Yan Ran called her and told her that the album had been released, and also gave her a lot of scratch cards. Fans can use the password on the card to download music, wallpapers, etc. from authorized websites, and asked her to come over, take it and give it away. The pile of scratch cards is still in her bag. Seeing that almost all of these classmates were holding posters and waiting for her to sign, she felt like she was inspired by Touch. And this is indeed the case. Less than a week after the release of Touch, the sales exceeded 1 million. Several songs in the album directly swept the major music charts. Among them, the title song Touch has the strongest momentum, directly landing at the top of the hottest songs chart, firmly sitting on the top of the championship with a strong posture, and all other songs of the same period are eclipsed by its light. The topic level remains high. 4 of the top 10 hot searches on Weibo are about Yan Ran and his album. Even Shen Yazi got into a position. Nothing else, these songs are so good. The sound of nature is nothing more than this. As a result, Shen Yazi, the heroine of the MV and another singer of Touch, also received a lot of attention. Because of this album, Yan Ran has become famous all over the world, and she has been slow to receive notices. She is even busier every day, and she even has to squeeze in time for filming. Fans want to meet him and get his autograph. Delusion. So, they turned their attention to Shenyazi, a girl who had worked closely with their idol. Hence, the current scene of fanatic pursuit by fans. Shenyazi finally got rid of the group of fanatical fans and walked to the classroom, only to be greeted by a wave of more enthusiastic onlookers. Shenyazi, you are finally here. Shenyazi, can you sign your name for me? Shenyazi, you are so amazing. After just one summer vacation, you have become a big star. Shenyazi looked at the familiar and unfamiliar faces in front of her and felt very emotional. Her mentality was no longer young. Now she was surrounded by young classmates, and her mood couldn't help but be infected. Taking over the various signature props handed over by her classmates, she smiled and signed her names to them one by one. Shenyazi, is the heroine in Yan Ran's MV really you? Isn't she so beautiful? Yes, yes, with that flick of my sleeve and a glance back, my whole blood tank was empty for a second, and it took me 3 seconds to react. Am I going to tell you that I played that MV on loop for the entire day? What's a whole day, 3 days here? For a time, the classroom was very lively. What are you doing here, classmates? The school bell has been ringing for several minutes. The instructor walked in. Everyone suddenly dispersed, and immediately rushed back to their seats, took out their books and looked like good students. Shenyazi, who was holding a notebook and preparing to sign. The instructor glanced around the classroom, and finally his eyes fell on Shenyazi. His originally serious expression softened a little. Shenyazi, please go back to your seat. Seeing that everyone had returned to their seats, the instructor nodded with satisfaction and walked to the podium. A tall and thin boy followed him in. The moment I saw him, there was a sound of breathing from below. This guy is too handsome, right? Is there a real-life version of Crystal Boy? Those clear eyes, that clean temperament, that tall figure like a bamboo. The girls underneath were howling in their hearts, shouting and looking at me, and the fire in their eyes almost melted the boy. Not to mention girls, many boys were stunned. The instructor looked at the reactions of everyone below and couldn't help but feel a sense of superiority in his heart. A group of superficial little wouldn't even turn their eyes when they saw a good-looking person. He would not admit that he was also absent-minded for several seconds at first. After coughing twice, the instructor raised his hand and said, "Everyone, please put aside what you are doing and listen to me." The student next to me, Xiechixi, took a break from school for half a semester for some reason, and now he is here. School, he will be a member of our class from now on. From now on, students should help new students more, and everyone welcomes him. After the instructor finished speaking, he took the lead in applauding. There was thunderous applause in the classroom. 30 people exerted the power of 300 people. Instructor, Xiechi, go and choose a seat and get ready for class. There were many empty seats in the classroom, but Xiechi walked straight to Shenyazi and sat down on the empty seat behind her. Shenyazi is sitting in the second to last row on the right, next to the window. When he sat down, Shenyazi clearly felt the fluctuations of spiritual energy on his body. He couldn't help but turn around and look at him in surprise. Unexpectedly, this new classmate was actually a monk, and his cultivation level was not low, and he was in the late stage of chi refining. The recovery of spiritual energy has only taken a few years. Most people are crossing the river by feeling the stones. Many of them don't know how to practice yet. However, this Xiechi has already reached the late stage of chi refining. He is either very qualified or has a very strong backer, or he is second-rate. Both. Sitting back in the classroom to listen to the lecture, Shenyazi felt very mysterious. On the first day, the teachers of each subject did not teach much practical content. They mostly ask students to study by themselves and calm down their impetuous mentality. Shenyazi turned over the book seriously. In this life, because of her practice, she feels that her mind is always clear and her memory has been greatly improved, and is still improving. In the past, I could remember it after reading it 2 or 3 times, but now I can never forget it. The contents of the book will be imprinted in your mind after just one glance. In this way, even if she is busy filming, she will not delay her studies. The last class was the instructor's Marxist class. The students had been waiting for the end of the class to ask Shenyazi for his autograph. As a result, the instructor said after the class, "Shenyazi, come with me." Everyone was disappointed and curious about what the instructor wanted to do with Shenyazi. Shenyazi followed him out and stopped for a moment when he passed the podium. "If you want autographs, you can ask Wrong. Give her the book and I will sign it for you when I come back." Wrong is a friend I made after I arrived at university. There was a burst of cheers in the classroom. However, not everyone wanted to get her autograph. While most people were so happy that they slapped the table, a girl in the middle of the second row had a look of disdain. Adorable baby, the miracle doctor is so awesome. Author, 955. Chapter 694. She is very beautiful, with an oval face, big eyes, cherry lips, very white skin, light makeup on her face, and an exquisite skirt, which makes her stand out. It is the squad leader Gumiao. A girl next to her pretended to imitate the sentence, "I'll sign it for you when I get back." Ugh. You're laughing so hard. Who does she think she is? She's not even an 18th tier starlet, and she still looks like a big name star. Cut. What knowledge can someone who came out of an orphanage have? I was praised a few times by a group of losers, and I really thought I had become a goddess. That's right, I suddenly entered the entertainment industry and got the third female lead from director Lu. I might choose someone to be my godfather. As soon as these words came out, the small group headed by Gu Miao burst into laughter. Gu Miao's delicate eyebrows frowned. "Okay, what's there to talk about as a low-class person? My cousin invited me to dinner, do you want me to get her autograph for you?" Her cousin is a big star, Gu Yuro. Not long ago, Gu Yuro was criticized by the entire internet and told to get out of the entertainment industry. However, half a month later, all the negative information about her on the internet disappeared, and she once again returned to the public eye, even obtained a lot of resources, and became more popular than before. Gu Miao's voice was light when she spoke, revealing a sense of arrogance as if she was giving alms. Several girls didn't care about this, but looked excited. "Really, Miao? I'm Rura's biggest fan. You must get an autograph for me, please." Gu Miao said and walked out of the classroom. When they came back, Shenyazi and Gu Miao bumped into each other. Gu Miao was walking down, surrounded by a group of people. When he saw her, the smile on his face paused, he glanced at her condescendingly, and then walked past her. Shenyazi could still hear the laughter of these girls pointing at him, without covering up. Shenyazi smiled faintly. In her previous life, she had risen from the grassroots to the top of the entertainment industry. What kind of storms had she not seen? How could he be affected by the pointing fingers of a few little girls? To be honest, she didn't feel anything at all. There is no need to waste feelings on people who are insignificant. It was the instructor's words just now that made her feel warm. "Shenyazi, I heard about your filming. If you want to film, the teacher has no right to interfere. However, you must not fall behind in your studies. There are many things in life that cannot be taken into consideration. You must know which ones are most important to you. So, the teacher hopes that you can think carefully about whether you want to continue filming. If you have any difficulties, just tell them and the teacher will help you in any way he can." Shenyazi looked calm and said calmly, "Teacher, thank you. I know you are doing it for my own good, but I don't intend to give up filming, but I promise you that I will not delay my studies." Seeing what the instructor wanted to say, Shenyazi said directly, "Teacher, if you don't believe it, just look at my final exam results. I will speak with facts." Seeing her clear eyes and firm expression, it was obvious that she had made up her mind. The instructor said nothing and let her go. Shenyazi had just left the school when he received a call from Kid Lu Chen. Lu Chen is a little boy who was accidentally saved by the original owner. He is also the grandson of director Lu. It was precisely because of Lu Chen's relationship that I got the opportunity to audition for the third female lead in The Power of Heaven. But the reason why she was able to get this role was because of her own strength. Director Lu has always been serious and responsible for his works. If her acting skills are not up to par, he will not let her join the team. Sisters Hizzy, why didn't you contact me for so long? Huh, I'm very angry. Shenyazi suddenly laughed. Well, it's Sisters Hizzy's fault that she hasn't contacted our big baby Chen Chen for so many days. She really deserves to be punished. Chen Chen said, "How should I be punished? I accept it. Well, I'll force you to come to my birthday party. This Saturday is my birthday. If you don't come, sister, I will never pay attention to you again." Listening to his voice, Shenyazi could imagine how arrogant the little guy on the other end looked. The smile in his eyes grew deeper and his voice became softer. "Well, I will definitely be there when the time comes." The two chatted for a long time before Lu Chen reluctantly hung up the phone. The smile on Shenyazi's face hadn't dissipated when another call came in. "Zhizhi, Director Lu's grandson is going to hold a birthday party this Saturday. Many big names in the industry will be there. I tried every means to get an invitation. You can come with me then and take the opportunity to get to know more people. I sent you a document. You should read it carefully in the next few days. It is best to memorize it. It will probably be used at the banquet. I will pick you up on Saturday morning." "Wait a minute, Sister Junruo." Shenyazi stopped Gu Junruo from hanging up the phone. "Is there anything else?" Gu Junruo's voice came over, accompanied by the crisp sound of high heels hitting the ground. It was obvious that she was rushing to somewhere. Shenyi knew. "Sister Jun, are you? I just received an invitation from Lu Chen." Lu Chen. Gu Junruo realized in the middle of her sentence. Isn't Lu Chen the grandson of Director Lu? She spent a lot of effort to get an invitation, but in the end, her little artist actually received an invitation from the main host of the party. It was really irritating to compare one person to another. But as an agent, she should feel honored, right? The greater the energy and strength of her artists, the brighter her manager's face will be. When Shenyazi returned home, Ningning and Shuigong greeted them. One handed them water, the other hugged them, vying to show their courtesy. "They are really two living treasures." Shenyazi hugged the two little guys and kissed each. Lin Nan walked in, holding two big bags in his hands, which contained vegetables he bought from the vegetable market after school. He also had a paper bag from express delivery under his arm. "Sister, I have your express delivery." Shenyazi took it and opened it. Inside was a delicate wooden box. Inside the box lay a round jade pendant. The jade pendant was white and delicate, like the best mutton fat. The word Lu was engraved on the front and flowers and birds were carved on the back. The insect fish is surrounded by a circle of auspicious clouds, which is very festive. There is a piece of paper underneath the jade pendant, indicating that this jade pendant is an invitation to Lu Chen's birthday party. "You actually used a jade pendant as an invitation? It's really unique." Shenyazi stroked the lines on the jade pendant, thinking about what gift to give Lu Chen. The time soon arrived on Saturday. Shenyazi had an elective class that day, and it happened to be noon when he finished the class. Coming out of the school gate, Shenyazi saw Gu Junruo's luxurious and high-profile Maserati parked on the side of the road. She walked over and was about to open the door and get in when she suddenly felt something in her heart and looked towards a certain place. But there was nothing. Is it her imagination? Gu Junruo knocked on the steering wheel. "What's wrong?" Shen Yizi sat in and put on his seat belt. It's nothing. She didn't know that the moment the car drove away, a man came out from behind the century-old camphor tree at the school gate, holding a black camera in his hand. Adorable baby, the miracle doctor is so awesome. Author, 955. Chapter 695. Gu Junru took Shen Yizi directly to a beauty club. Nick, the owner and stylist of the club, came out and gave Gu Junru a big hug, and then went to hug Shen Yizi. Oh, baby, you are so beautiful. Gu Junru kicked him and pulled Shen Yizi behind him, with a protective attitude. What are you doing? Nick, why are you still so stubborn that you will go up and take possession of a pretty girl when you see her? It's cheap. Nick held his heart in both hands and complained with an exaggerated expression, Zia Junjun, how can you say that to me? It's so sad. Zia Junjun. What is this name? The corners of Shen Yizi's mouth twitched. Gu Junru's forehead twitched and she slapped Nick. Okay, don't be weird, I'm in a hurry and don't have time to chat with you, hurry up and styles Hizzy. Hizzy, even the name is so beautiful. Nick straightened his expression and stretched out his hand to Shen Yizi. Hello, Zhizzy, I'm Nick. Shen Yizi shook hands with him and suddenly remembered who Nick was. Isn't this Master Nick who is rumored to have a ghost hand in the industry? Can turn decay into magic. It is said that no matter how ugly a person is, he can become as beautiful as a fairy in his hands. Unexpectedly, she was just attending a banquet, and Sister June, are you actually invited this person out? Beauty, come with me, I can't wait to see you look stunning after being made by me. The goddess tonight is destined to be you. Nick looked at her with burning eyes, which made Shen Yizi feel a little nervous and couldn't help but look at Gu Junru. Gu Junru nodded towards her. Go ahead, I'm looking forward to it too. Lu Family Manor. The manor is halfway up the mountain, encompassing almost half of the mountain. A wide mountain road extends from the foot of the mountain to the entrance of the manor. A tall wall with a height of 3 people covers the manor tightly, and only the lush branches and leaves extending from inside can be vaguely seen. The large carved iron door that was usually closed was now wide open to welcome the visiting guests. The manor is dotted with fountains, rock eyries, lawns and lakes, flowers and scenery, and pleasant air. As soon as you enter it, you will feel refreshed. In the center sits a large villa that combines Chinese and Western styles. It is magnificent, luxurious, and extraordinary, just like a royal court. There are also several small villas scattered around, such as the small buildings guarding the royal court. They seem to be scattered at random, but in fact they echo the trees and mountains and rivers in the garden, forming a small star array. The formation can absorb the power of the stars and convert it into aura, so that all living things within the range covered by the formation can be nourished. When necessary, activate formations to defend against foreign enemies. Just from this formation, you can get a glimpse of the depth of the Lu family. This is just an outsider of the Lu family, and the people who live here are all members of the Lu family who are unable to practice or whose cultivation is low. If it were an inner clan, I don't know how impressive and strong the scene and defense would be. Of course, ordinary people cannot recognize the formation here, they are just impressed by the luxurious atmosphere here. Or the air is particularly fresh, but no matter how much it is, you can't feel it. When Shen Yizi and Gu Junru arrived, a long line of luxury cars had been parked on both sides of the road outside the door, which made people stunned. There is a bodyguard standing at regular intervals on both sides of the road, not only to protect the safety of the guests, but also to guard against anyone sneaking in and causing trouble. Before getting off the bus, Gu Junru checked with Shen Yizi for the last time. Have you remembered all the information I sent you? Shen Yizi smiled. Sister June, are you? How many times have you asked me this question? If you don't believe me, you can give me a test on the spot. Forget it, just remember. Gu Junru took one last look at Shen Yizi. Even though he had looked all the way, the amazement in his eyes was still there. He said with emotion, "Zizzy, you have such a beautiful appearance and outstanding temperament. Even in the entertainment industry where there are so many beauties, there are not many who can compare to you. As long as you don't seek death, your future achievements will be limitless. But in the same way, the more outstanding you are, the more people will hate you. This banquet can be said to be your first appearance in front of so many insiders, so you must not make any mistakes. Sister June, are you? Don't worry." Shen Yizi patted her shoulder and quietly put in a Qingling talisman. The Qingling talisman can make people feel peaceful and calm, and relieve people's stress. Sure enough, Gu Junro's expression immediately became much more relaxed. The two of them looked at each other and smiled, and got out of the car one after another. Chu Chu is a reporter in the entertainment section of Yaoguang newspaper, or entertainment reporter for short. Although Yaoguang newspaper company is named after the city Yaoguang, it is only a third-rate newspaper company with only a dozen people in the company. Recently, the performance of the newspaper has been getting worse and worse, and it is about to go bankrupt. If we don't work hard, we will really die. Chu Chu said he was the chief editor of the entertainment board, but in fact he only had 2 people under him. Recently, she was so worried about sales that she didn't even have the interest to read new novels. Just when she was at a loss what to do, she got a piece of news from her friend. The grandson of director Lueguo is going to hold a 5th birthday party. The banquet has invited countless big names. It can be said that it is a gathering of stars, and every one of them is a person who can make the entertainment industry tremble. In addition to the big names in the entertainment industry, there will also be many big names from outside the industry who will come to support us. When Chu Chu heard the news, she was so excited that she screamed for a full minute. After finally calming down my boiling mood, another ladle of cold water was poured on me. The Lu family banquet was held at the Banshan Manor. Except for the guests who had received the invitation and the staff of the manor, no one else was allowed to approach. Otherwise the consequences will be serious. As for what kind of serious solution, Chu Chu said that even a small citizen like herself couldn't imagine it. But in order to keep her job, she decided to fight. Even if he is discovered by then, his life will not be lost. So Chu Chu and 2 of his men finally got in after going through a lot of hardships. Of course, only outside the village. In Zhuangnei, you need to pay attention to your face and invitations. Ever since, Chu Chu and her 2 men squatted in the grass, quietly waiting for the big news to appear. After a few hours, I had countless mosquito bites on my body. I was tired, hungry, and hot, and my whole body was almost exhausted. The sadness in Chu Chu's heart has turned into a river. As he was drooping, Zheng Huohuo next to him suddenly let out an exclamation. Chu Chu was so excited that she covered her mouth and lowered her voice, "You are going to die. If someone finds out, the 3 of us will have to finish the game." Zheng Huohuo took off her hand, his eyes shining, "Boss, look ahead dash." Chu Chu looked along her line of sight and stood as dumbfounded as a chicken. Oh my God, how could there be such a beautiful person? She slapped Tan, sounds like Chin, who was sleeping beside her to wake up. "Fat man, hurry up, shoot. I have a hunch, this must be big news." Tan Xiao pressed the shutter with a dull look on his face. When people came in, he took a breath of cold air and asked, "Mamma Mia, did he see a fairy just now?" You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Adorable baby, the miracle doctor is so awesome. Author, 955. Chapter 696. The fairy in the eyes of the 3 people is none other than Shen Yizi. As she walked over, it was like pressing the mute button. Everyone who saw her suddenly lost their voice. It wasn't until she walked over that everyone recovered from the shocking shock that shocked their souls. The one that just passed was, "Tisk, tisk, I originally thought Guyuro was beautiful enough, but now it seems that she still lacks experience. Which family does this girl belong to? Why haven't I seen her before? Seeing as she came with Gu Junru, she must be a newcomer in Gu Junru's hands. I'm afraid things are going to change in this entertainment industry. Newcomer, hee, I have to go say hello later. In the corner of the living room, Guyuro was holding a wine glass in her hand and was chatting and laughing with someone. Suddenly she noticed that the man opposite her was staring at something with a fiery light in his eyes. She felt unhappy and followed her gaze. The next moment, the wine glass in her hand was almost crushed. Shenyazi. How come this is here? How could she, a little star outside the 18th tier, come to the Lu family banquet? When she caught a glimpse of Gu Junru next to her, she understood and sneered. It turned out that she had followed her manager in. The invitations issued by the Lu family are divided into 3 categories. The lowest level invitations are made of paper and can only be used by the person holding the invitation. The second level invitations are made of blood jade, but are no more than the size of a business card, but are extremely luxurious and can be held in hand. Inviters can bring 1 companion. The highest level invitations are made of spiritual jade. There is no limit on the number of people. They symbolize the most noble status and can enjoy the highest level service at the banquet. You can also move around the manor at will. With Gu Junru's status, he could only get a 3rd-class invitation at most. 3rd-class invitation, but no one else is allowed. If the host doesn't pursue it, it doesn't matter, but if he cares about it, haha. Not to mention Shenyazi, even Gu Junru, the person holding the invitation card, would be invited out on the spot. Thinking of this, a hint of coldness flashed in Guyuro's eyes. She held the wine glass and walked over swayingly. Tisk tisk, look, who is this? Isn't it the Cinderella who stole my role before? Shenyazi, I really overestimated your shame. For the sake of gold, Master Panjaji actually dares to sneak into the Lu family's banquet. Should I say that you are overestimating your capabilities or that you are ignorant and stupid? It turns out that this girl sneaked in. The eyes of the people around looking at Shenyazi changed immediately. From the original amazing to contemptuous. Guyuro was very satisfied with everyone's reaction. Without waiting for Shenyazi to speak, she directly waved to a waiter. This woman didn't have an invitation, and she doesn't know how she got in. Quickly drive her out, lest the banquet be ruined, broken. The waiter was originally obsessed with Shenyazi's beauty, but now his heart trembled after hearing Guyuro's words. Tonight's banquet is not trivial. If someone with ulterior motive sneaks in to destroy it, the consequences, I can't even imagine it. However, he did not completely listen to Guyuro's words, but stepped forward and said, Miss, can you show me your invitation? Gu Junru suddenly became angry, and took a step forward. Sister Yu's aura was fully activated, and she looked at the waiter. What do you mean? Is this how the Lu family treats guests? The waiter was frightened by her sight, and he became awkward when speaking. This lady. Guyuro chuckled. What do you mean? Gu Junru, if I guessed correctly, you should have received a 3rd-class invitation. You can only attend the banquet by yourself. How did this Miss Shen get in? Gu Junru looked at her in shock. Seeing this expression in Guyuro's eyes, she naturally thought it was Gu Junru's reaction after being exposed. She looked at Shenyazi, her eyes falling on that face, and the jealousy in her heart almost burst out. He sneered, Ms. Shen really deserves to be from the orphanage. Her methods are amazing. First she snatched the role that should have belonged to me from me, and now she sneaked into the banquet through her agent. Why, under the guise of looking for something to do at the banquet. Because of the commotion here, more people gathered over and exploded when they heard Guyuro's words. This girl actually sneaked in? She is so courageous. Does she think the Lu family is like the nouveau riche, and she can sneak in if she wants? You are young and you are thinking about evil things. No matter how beautiful you are, it is all in vain. Didn't you hear that she came out of an orphanage? Taking advantage of her beauty, she tried every possible means to climb up the ladder, and even the good guys found her way to the Liu family. Listening to the discussions of the people around her, Gu Yuro's eyes were full of smiles, thinking that Shen Yizi would be kicked out in front of so many people later, and she felt extremely happy. Do you, an ignorant person, think that you can be invincible just by looking at your face? You are still young if you want to join a truly wealthy family. When your face is scratched, I will see how arrogant you are. Shen Yizi looked at Gu Yuro's face that was twisted with jealousy, and smiled. Miss Gu, you said that I sneaked in? What evidence do you have? I also said that you sneaked in. After all, it's like as you said, not everyone can come to the Liu family's banquet. Miss Gu's feat of stripping off a man's clothes in front of everyone is still fresh in my mind. It's beyond my expectation that the Liu family would invite you. Gu Yuro's face twisted for a moment, her eyes swishing poisonous arrows at Shen Yizi. She realized that this was a banquet and her image could not be ruined, so she finally calmed down her expression. He sneered, evidence? You are an 18th tier starlet. If you didn't sneak in, how could you have come in with an invitation? Stop being funny and get out of here if you know how to do it, so as not to dirty the place. The Liu family, not someone like you can come here. Shen Yizi was really angry and laughed. Just as he was about to take out the jade pendant for her to take a good look at, Gu Yuro was suddenly pushed hard from behind. She stumbled and fell to the ground, and the scenery under her skirt was exposed on the spot. The wine glass in her hand shattered, and the bright red wine splashed on her body, making her dress wet. Her hands were pricked with pieces of glass and were bleeding, making her whole body miserable. Damn it, who dares to push me? Her voice stopped abruptly when she saw Lu Chen standing behind her. Lu Chen glared at her fiercely. Sisters, Hizzy was invited by me, do you have any objection? You dare to say that she sneaked in, you bad woman. After all, he is a member of the Liu family. He was raised by nobles and nobles since childhood. When he is angry at this moment, even though he is small, his aura is really overwhelming. He pointed at the unlucky waiter and said, kick her out. This woman is not allowed to come in again. The waiter looked embarrassed. As Lu Chen was the most favored being of the younger generation of the Liu family and was the birthday boy tonight, he naturally didn't dare not listen to his words, but he was obviously speaking angrily, and Gu Yuro was at the banquet. Guest, do you really want to kick people out? Adorable baby, the miracle doctor is so awesome. Author, 955. Chapter 697. What happened here? Li Hongmei saw everyone gathered here and stepped forward. Hearing this, the waiter immediately breathed a sigh of relief and stepped forward to tell the story in a low voice. Li Hongmei glanced at Gu Yuro and said without comment, Miss Gu, Miss Shen is a distinguished guest of our Liu family, but you slandered her as someone who sneaked in. I hope you can apologize to her. Apologize? Ask her to apologize to this little bitch? Gu Yuro stood up from the ground in embarrassment. She noticed the various looks from everyone and clenched her fists. She had never suffered such a great humiliation since she was a child. Shen Yizi. Shen Yizi. Very good. However, looking at Li Hongmei's appearance, if she didn't apologize to Shen Yizi on the spot, she might have someone ask her out. She finally got an invitation from that person, how could she be kicked out? At this moment, a tall and slender man walked in. He was wearing a dark blue suit, gold-rimmed glasses, and his artist-like long hair was tied back. He was dignified, elegant, and handsome. Attracted the attention of many people as soon as he entered the venue. Especially Gu Yuro, her eyes shone with light the moment she saw him, and she was about to go up to him. However, under his cold gaze, she froze in place. You can only keep conveying your grievances with your eyes. Lu Ming walked towards Li Hongmei, third brother and sister. What's going on? Why are they all gathered at the door? Did you know that I was coming and came here to greet me? Li Hongmei pretended to be surprised. How does eldest brother know? Lu Ming couldn't help but laugh. When he saw Lu Chen beside him, he picked him up and squeezed his face. Is this Chen Chen? He looks really stocky. Come, call uncle and give you something delicious. Lu Chen vaguely remembered this uncle, and he gave a sweet cry, which made Lu Ming even happier. He took out a lot of delicious and fun things from his pocket like magic and stuffed them to him. A few people were talking and laughing, as if they had completely forgotten about Gu Yuro. She bit her lip in embarrassment and walked forward cruelly. Brother Ming. Lu Ming's look pinned her to the spot. This is. Li Hongmei briefly explained what had just happened, focusing on introducing Sinking Yi Ji to him. This is the girl who saved Chen Chen that day. Chen Chen likes her. Lu Ming glanced at Shen Yizi politely. Miss Shen saved Chen Chen. I have to find a chance to thank you. I don't know if it was Shen Yizi's illusion, but I always felt that there was something profound in what he said. At Lu Ming's signal, Gu Yuro finally apologized to Shen Yi, and immediately followed the waiter to the guest room to change clothes. The annoying person finally left. Lu Chen slipped off Lu Ming and ran to Shen Yizi. He hugged her legs and rubbed her. Sisters Yizi, I miss you so much. In an instant, he changed from a domineering young master to a fair and soft young lady. As today's birthday boy, Lu Chen was dressed very festively. He wore a red embroidered sleeveless silk gown, a ruby gold collar around his neck, and a pair of black silk trousers with a golden dragon embroidered on it. The dragon's eyes were lifelike. His movements shone brightly, as if he was watching people. Lu Chen is already pretty and cute, and when he puts on this outfit, he looks like a little fairy boy in a painting. Shen Yizi pinched his face and handed him a square-inch box. Chen Chen, happy birthday. Lu Chen couldn't wait to open it and saw a beautiful fish-shaped jade pendant inside. He happily took it in his hand and looked at it again and again. When Lu Ming saw the jade pendant, his expression changed and he glanced at Shen Yizi. It seemed that he had come to the right place this time. This girl was indeed extraordinary. Lu Chen clamored to take off the collar. Mom, the collar is too heavy, I want to wear a jade pendant. Li Hongmei naturally didn't allow it. This necklace was specially made for his birthday today. How could he pick it off? Lu Chen snorted angrily, stopped arguing about taking off the collar, hung the jade pendant around his neck, and gave Li Hongmei a proud look. This look made everyone present couldn't help but laugh. Shen Yizi already had a stunning appearance, but now he smiled brightly, and the brilliance in the room was eclipsed. Lu Ming's gaze suddenly deepened as he looked at her. Li Hongmei didn't stay long before taking Lu Chen to meet other elders. Lu Ming took 2 glasses of wine from the waiter's tray, handed one to Shen Yizi, and made a clinking motion towards her. While drinking, his eyes never moved away from her face. Shen Yizi felt unhappy and his expression became lighter. When Gu Yuro changed into a dress and came down, she saw Lu Ming and Shen Yizi standing together, chatting and laughing, and their eyes instantly darkened. Came over, took Lu Ming's arm in a demonstration, and said softly, Brother Ming, my feet hurt, let's go over there and sit down. Shen Yizi took the opportunity to escape. Gu Junru came over and said, let's go, I'll take you to meet some big guys in the industry. After taking a few steps, she lowered her voice and said in Shen Yizi's ear, Lu Ming is the leader of this generation of the Lu family. It was Gu Yuro who came back to life after climbing up to him. He is very romantic. Changing women is like changing clothes. You are the best, it's better to stay away from him. Even if Gu Junru didn't say anything, Shen Yizi would not approach him. This man gave her a very bad feeling. Speaking of which, why didn't Xueting come with you? Didn't he look at you closely? If he were here, I'm afraid no man would be able to get within 3 meters of you, Gu Junro said jokingly. Thinking of Gu Switting, Shen Yizi's eyes softened. He went to find something. Looking for something? Gu Junro was suspicious. Why does a big CEO like him need to go there in person? Shen Yizi opened his eyes and told lies. I don't know either. Will she tell her that Gu Switting is looking for special soil that can plant baby flower seeds? With Gu Junru along with him, Shen Yizi actually got to know a lot of people. After going around a lot, he had a thick stack of business cards in his hand, and even got an unexpected opportunity. As soon as Gu Xiao arrived at the banquet, he wandered around the place looking for Shen Yizi. Originally, he didn't want to come to this kind of banquet, as long as the gifts arrived, but his eldest brother was worried about his sister-in-law, fearing that she would be snatched away by other wolves, so he ordered him to be there. Take good care of his beloved little one. So Gu Xiao had to get up from the bed, quickly packed himself up, and hurried over. The banquet is already halfway through now, but as long as it's not over, it's not too late. As soon as Shen Yizi sat down on the sofa in the corner, a person rushed over and sat down next to her. Sister-in-law, I'm here. Seeing it was Gu Xiao, Shen Yizi was surprised. What did you call me? Sister-in-law, he, I was ordered to guard you when I was in danger. My brother ordered me to guard you. Sister-in-law, you can't drive me away. Gu Xiao expressed his determination to stay by her side. Adorable baby, the miracle doctor is so awesome. Author, 955. Chapter 698. Don't call me sister-in-law, Shen Yizi warned him, but he was a little funny in his heart. What would this guy's expression be like if he knew she was the Nine Killer? What do you call me if you don't call me sister-in-law? Zhizi. Zai. Shen Yizi glanced at him sideways. If you have the courage to call me that in front of your brother, I won't object. Gu Xiao immediately made a gesture of surrender. Then I'd better call you sister-in-law. Shen Yizi raised his forehead and didn't bother to correct him anymore. Gu Xiao went over and brought back a plate of food. He hasn't eaten anything since he got up. Gu Xiao was here, and several of his bad friends also came over after hearing the news. Gu Xiao introduced both parties to each other, and the few people gathered into a small circle and chatted happily. The topic was all over the place, but somehow it turned to a food show. Qin Jin, the number one bad friend, held a cigarette between his fingers but did not smoke it. Zhizi, you probably don't know that I am also a fan of yours. Shen Yizi looked at him in surprise. Every one of the food pictures you posted on Weibo arouses my appetite. Qin Jin suffers from anorexia. He has tried various methods, but still cannot rekindle his love for food. He usually relies on nutritional injections and nutritional supplements to maintain his body's needs. The only thing he can eat is probably cigarettes. However, at this moment, he said that the food pictures Shen Yizi put on Weibo could arouse his appetite. How can it not be surprising? Gu Xiao said, real or false? Qin Jin glanced at him and didn't bother to answer. Zhao Song, friend number 2, said happily, that's great, Qin Baizai can finally eat. Zhizi, you. Zhao Zai, don't have any delusions, my brother will never let Zhizi cook for other men. Gu Xiao knew what he was going to say, but he stopped him with just one sentence. Huo Jingzhi, who has always been full of ideas, rolled his eyes and said, I have an idea, do you want to listen to it? If you want to let Zhizi secretly make Baizai, then I advise you to give up on this idea as soon as possible. Gu Xiao didn't know his brother very well, but one thing was certain, that is, Shen Yizi's status in his brother's mind was unparalleled, and it would be an understatement to say that he was favored as a top dog. If he found out that Zhizi secretly cooked food for other men, it would be strange if his brother didn't punish him severely. Huo Jingzhi crossed his legs and said with a proud look on his face, do you think I'm just as full of nonsense as you? My method not only allows Baizai to successfully eat Zhizi's delicious food, but also has a great influence on his benefit. What method? Tell me quickly. Zhao Song came over innocently. Shen Yizi was also intrigued by him. He took a sip of the fruit wine and said, "Tell me about it." Huo Jingzhi then told everything about his thoughts. After listening to this, several people fell silent. What's wrong? Is this a bad idea? Huo Jingzhi asked, raising his eyebrows. Gu Xiao suddenly jumped up and patted him on the shoulder. "Jej, I didn't expect you to have such a bright mind. This is a good idea, really good. He, can we go there too? A guest appearance." Huo Jingzhi's method can be said to be simple, but it can also be said to be complicated. In fact, it is to create a food show, and invite Shen Yizi to be a guest and cook the food. Don't waste the food after making it. Qingjing can come and taste it openly. As for the name of this show, it is tentatively decided to be Dushi. Since it is called fighting for food, the fighting process is naturally indispensable in the program. This competition is divided into literary and martial arts. The literary competition is to ask the invited guests to answer some questions about food. If the answer is correct, points will be added, and if the answer is wrong, points will be deducted. Martial arts competition is a cooking competition, and the winner or loser is determined by the deliciousness of the food. As for the specific details, there will naturally be regulations by then. Now Huo Jingzhi just put forward a rough idea. I was thinking that this program would be broadcast in the form of a live broadcast. There is not much to say about the fighting part. The key is the fighting. I want to add some adventurous elements, for example, let the participating guests find it themselves. Ingredients. And this scope must be limited to some inaccessible forests, uninhabited islands, and deserts with scarce resources. This will increase the difficulty of finding ingredients and increase the attractions. What do you think? The more Shen Yizi listened, the brighter her eyes became. In her previous life, programs like this that integrated food, celebrities, adventures, variety shows, and live broadcasts were not uncommon. It could even be said to be rampant. But in this world, I don't know if the spiritual energy has revived. Because of this, the general public is more concerned about cultivation matters. Although entertainment is not in decline, its development trend is not so rapid, and it feels a bit tepid. However, no matter in which era, entertainment is essential. She believes that as long as this show is successfully run, it will definitely attract a large audience. It may be difficult for other people to start a program, but the families of those here are not lacking in money and power. Now they are only lacking in people. As for the candidate, isn't Shen Yizi a ready-made one? For the rest, just ask. The next few people chatted enthusiastically about the details of the program. During this period, various delicacies were inevitably mentioned, and Shen Yizi knew that they were treasures of many families. The casual mention of a delicacy made several people's appetites increase and their mouths watered. Gu Xiao and the others could only satisfy their cravings by eating the pastries on site. Shen Yizi went to the bathroom, and when he came out, he met Gu Yuro. She seemed to be waiting for her here specially. When she saw her coming out, she gave her a strange smile, which was a bit vicious and a bit gloating. Shen Yizi, what a coincidence. Shen Yizi glanced at her, ignored her, walked around her and walked out. Gu Yuro suddenly grabbed her wrist and said, Shen Yizi, we are already acquaintances after all. Let's talk a few words when we meet. Why are you leaving in a hurry? This Gu Yuro, while constantly releasing his malice towards her, was pulling her to talk. What the was going on? What's more, they have already broken up with each other. What is there to say? Shen Yizi broke away from her hand and said, Miss Gu, there is nothing to say between us. At this time, Lu Ming walked over from the other end of the corridor. Shen Yizi met his eyes, and felt a twang in his heart, having a bad premonition. She shook off Gu Yuro, nodded to Lu Ming, and left step by step. There was a bright banquet hall in front of her. Just when she was relieved, Lu Ming called her from behind, "Miss Shen, can you take a step to speak?" Shen Yizi didn't even look back. "Mr. Lu, we have nothing to say." He quickened his pace and walked out. However, in the next moment, she hit a wall of flesh. Lu Ming actually moved in front of her in an instant, blocking her way. Shen Yizi was shocked. She didn't understand why Lu Ming was also a monk, and his cultivation level was much higher than hers. There was no trace of aura, she hadn't noticed it before. She was about to retreat, but found that she couldn't move. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Adorable baby, the miracle doctor is so awesome. Author, 955. Chapter 699. Brother Ming, I'll leave first and won't disturb you. Gu Yuro glanced at Shen Yizi with a gloating look and walked away with a smile. Her image has plummeted since the previous incident of stripping off her clothes on the set. Her fellow artists, who were not dealing with her at first, took the opportunity to add insult to injury and released all kinds of dirty information about her. They hired trolls to slander her, causing her to be dissed by the entire internet. All the comments below were calling for her to get out of the entertainment industry. Within a few days, all the resources in her hands were divided up. The family looked on with cold eyes, no longer providing her with any resources, and seemed to regard her as an abandoned child. She hates it. I wish I could cut the culprit into pieces. But until she becomes stronger, she can only endure the humiliation and act in a low profile. Fortunately, there is always a path, and she fell in love with Lu Ming, a golden man. Lu Ming is a strange person. It is said that he has a good talent for cultivation, but he likes to mingle in the secular world and is also keen on being a domineering president. The other families laughed at him openly and secretly. However, he turned a deaf ear and went his own way, living a carefree life in the secular world, making entertainment headlines every day like a playboy, and even enjoying it. This hobby is gone. But what is annoying is that while he is in the secular world, his cultivation progress is not slow, and his strength is much higher than those of the monks of his generation. Such a strong backer, of course Gu Yuro would not refuse. So when Lu Ming showed interest in her, she couldn't wait to fall into his arms. However, she regretted it on the first day. Lu Ming was a pervert in bed, but in one night, she was tortured until she became humanoid. Fortunately, he was generous in his approach. He would feed her pills afterwards to help her body recover, and he would also put a lot of resources in front of her for her to choose from. In just a few days, all the negative news about her on the internet disappeared. She once again appeared in front of the public with great glory, and she was even more popular than before. But she was still upset because she still didn't know who was playing tricks on the set that time. It stands to reason that she clearly asked her assistant to put the medicine into Shen Yizi's cup, but in the end it harmed herself. She also doubted whether the assistant was cheating on her, but no matter how she tortured her, and even used some extraordinary methods, the assistant always insisted that he did not betray her, and she didn't know what happened. However, Lu Ming knew whether it was there as soon as he made a move. Facts have proved that her suspicion was correct. It was Shen Yizi, this little bitch, who harmed her. The assistant was hit by Shen Yizi's puppet charm and in turn put the medicine in her drink, which made her lose face in public. Shen Yizi. She is really hiding deep. I thought she was just an ordinary person with outstanding appearance, but it turns out that she is pretending to be a pig to eat the tiger, and a dignified monk pretends to be an ordinary person and hides in the secular world. There are also good things like the puppet talisman in his hand. She didn't lose unjustly, but, now that she knows, how can she not go back with revenge? This should fall into the hands of a pervert like Lu Ming and be tortured severely. It's best to be used as a furnace and a cauldron to harvest and nourish until death. Thinking about it, Guyuro suddenly felt that this was a really good idea. Shenyazi, don't you like to rob me? Then I will help you once. And Lu Ming also became interested in Shenyazi because of the puppet talisman. This is why he is here today. Otherwise, if he has so much time and energy to fall in love with a few women, why waste his time attending some banquet? At the thought that Lu Ming would use those torture methods on Shenyazi, Guyuro felt an uncontrollable excitement in her heart. I really want to see it with my own eyes. Shenyazi's chin was lifted up, and Lu Ming looked at her face carefully with wonder in his eyes. He leaned closer to her and took a quick sniff. It's such a pure breath. It's true that monks are different from ordinary people. Shenyazi was horrified. Did this person see through her disguise? Gu Xiao finished eating the third small cake, but Shenyazi hadn't come back yet. Zhizi, why haven't you come back for so long? Huo Jing rolled his eyes at him. Do you think women really go to the bathroom just to go to the bathroom? They also have to touch up their makeup. How can we finish it in less than 10 minutes? Gu Xiao thought so he happily took another plate of food and ate it with relish. However, 20 minutes passed and Shenyazi still hadn't come back. At this time, several straight men finally realized that something was wrong. No, I have to go take a look. If something happens to Gigi, my brother will have to tear me apart. Gu Xiao stopped eating the cake and strode away. Of course he couldn't enter the women's restroom by himself, so he found Gu Junru. As soon as Gu Junru heard what he said, her expression turned bad. When she went in, she saw no one from Shenyazi at all. Bishui Manor. As soon as Gu Swiding returned to the villa, ice cream came over him, and he patted the little guy casually. Zhizi hasn't come back yet. Ice cream, meow 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 dash yes, did the host bring back anything delicious? Gu Swiding smiled and flicked a spirit beast pill over. Ice cream was so happy that she rushed over to it, opened her mouth and took the pill into her mouth. After changing his clothes and coming down, Gu Swiding suddenly felt a palpitation in his heart. Who else but Zhizi could affect his mood in this way? Did something happen to Zhizi? The phone rang just at this moment, and Gu Xiru's voice sounded from the other end. Brother, Zhizi is missing. Gu Swiding's figure disappeared instantly, and the mobile phone that he had crushed into powder fell to the ground. Through the soul contract, Gu Swiding quickly locked Shenyazi's location. In the basement of a certain villa, Shenyazi was placed on a large, wide bed, with a bright red carpet on the floor and huge abstract paintings hanging on the walls. Looking at it for a long time would make people dizzy, as if they were falling into a weird dream. Lu Ming came out of the bathroom wearing a black silk nightgown. His hair was disheveled and dripping with water. He came to the bedside and leaned over to look at the girl lying on the bed. His eyes seemed to be moving across her body inch by inch. Eyes getting hotter and hotter. Such a beauty made him reluctant to attack her easily. If he could make her surrender to him and be submissive and dependable, the feeling would surely be even more ecstasy. As soon as Shenyazi opened his eyes, he saw a dilated face in front of him, and his pupils contracted. Lu Ming, why did you kidnap me? At this time, Shenyazi stopped being polite to him and spoke in a very rude tone. Lu Ming slid the back of his hand across her tender cheek. What do you think? The places he touched felt like flies crawling in the garbage. Shenyazi felt sick, but she still couldn't move, and her heart sank. How do you know I am a monk? If he hadn't used the monk's method to deal with him from the beginning, she might not have fallen into his hands. She cast an illusion spell on herself, which can confuse monks below the foundation establishment stage. Later, the ice heart bracelet given to her by Gu Swiding also had the function of hiding her cultivation level. Logically speaking, it should not be seen through by Lu Ming. Adorable baby, the miracle doctor is so awesome. Author, 955. Chapter 700. Lu Ming smiled slightly, rolled up a strand of her hair and played with it. You are really good at pretending, but it's a pity that you forgot the puppet charm you put on Assistant Guyuro. Originally, I was just playing around with Guyuro, but I didn't expect that she provided me with an important piece of information. If we follow her, won't we find you? Shen Yizi closed his eyes, and when he opened them again, his eyes were calm. Lu Ming, if you don't kill me all at once, I will let you know what it means to regret, and life is worse than death. Oh, really? Lu Ming's fingers came to her neck and rubbed it carefully with a playful expression. If you can let me go, I can give you unimaginable benefits. Lu Ming paused and said, unimaginable benefits? Ha ha ha, tell me. He seemed extremely amused. Shen Yizi urged the system in his mind while continuing to delay time. Aren't you curious how I, an orphan, suddenly turned into a monk? Moreover, the things in my hand are not just the puppet charm. Lu Ming suddenly grabbed her neck, and when she opened her mouth to breathe, he threw a pill into her mouth. Shen Yizi's face suddenly changed. What did you give me to eat? I wanted to spit it out, but the elixir melted in my mouth. Something that makes you unable to live without me. Lu Ming looked ambiguous and leaned close to her ear. When you become mine, am I still afraid that I won't be able to dig out your secrets? Now, let us. Suddenly there was a loud noise outside. It was someone attacking the formation. It means that there is an incoming enemy and they are trying to break in. Lu Ming didn't take it seriously. The formation outside was set up by his master, and ordinary people would never be able to break in. However, the next moment he was slapped in the face. A man appeared out of thin air in the basement. He was handsome and powerful, like a coming from heaven. Before he could react, he was thrown away by a huge force and slammed into the wall, and his soul seemed to be squeezed out. Shen Yizi felt as if his eyes were filled with flowers, and he fell into a familiar and hot embrace. Gu Swiding hugged her so tightly that she was almost breathless, but she did not struggle because the suffocating hug gave her an unparalleled sense of security. Zhizi, are you okay? Gu Swiding held her face and scanned her whole body. Shen Yizi was about to shake his head when his expression suddenly changed. A strong heat arose in her body, and her limbs felt itchy, giving her the urge to get extremely close to the person in front of her. Her body was faster than her thoughts, and by the time she realized it, she was already entangled with Gu Swiding. She already liked him, but now that the medicine was taking effect, his attraction to her became even more irresistible, like a big sweet and delicious cake, constantly tempting her to eat him. When she kissed her, Gu Swiding's body froze. He knew that she was in a bad state and he should push her away, but his arms seemed to weigh 1,000 pounds and he couldn't lift them up no matter what. It took a lot of self-control for him to restrain himself from being a guest. It was the sound of Lu Ming smashing down from the wall that woke him up. Gu Swiding turned his head with difficulty, separated from Shen Yizi's soft lips, and fed her an ice pill to calm the restlessness in her body. This elixir has the effect of clearing the mind and clearing up internal fire. Although it cannot completely eliminate the power of the Mei pill, it can at least ease it a lot and make her less uncomfortable. Gu Swiding put a coat on Shen Yizi and held him tightly in his arms without revealing any clues. His cold eyes were like daggers shooting at Lu Ming, who got up from the ground, with murderous intent surging in his heart. Lu Ming looked at the two of them being so intimate, and his bloodless face turned blue and black. However, when his consciousness swept over Gu Swiding's body, his expression cracked. With his strength, he can't see through this man's level of cultivation at all. In other words, his cultivation level far exceeds his own. This guy with a bone age of only 27, who is much younger than me, has a much higher cultivation level than me. He is already at the foundation establishment stage, so this man is at least at the golden core stage. Lu Ming was horrified and moved. He was cultivating magic skills, and his speed was much higher than that of his peers. However, It took him several decades and devoured countless women to reach the foundation building stage. His Yinyuan ability was still unstable and he might fall off at any time. However, this kid's aura is pure and harmonious, which shows that he is definitely practicing orthodox skills and is not improving by taking shortcuts. That he can achieve this level of cultivation at such a young age shows that he has excellent qualifications and extremely talented people. Master likes these young men with high cultivation and qualifications the most. If he can dedicate him to Master, he will definitely please Master. Lu Ming's eyes flickered, and he secretly activated the formation in the basement. In an instant, the scene in the basement changed. The big bed, luxurious chandeliers and absurd paintings were all gone, replaced by a frozen world of ice and snow. The surroundings are endless, with a vast expanse of white snow and frost, making people look particularly small and fragile among them. The flying snow and ice knives all over the sky are scraping on people's skin, taking away the heat and spiritual energy in the body, making people continue to become weak. Lu Ming's mouth raised a strange arc. This was a third-level psychedelic snow formation, and even the golden elixir stage monks might not be able to break through it. Not to mention these two. Within a few hours, these two people will be exhausted and dying, and he will be able to take them down without any effort. It's a pity that Lu Ming was happy too early. Goose Whitting struck out with a palm, and instantly the mountains collapsed and the ground cracked, ice and snow splashed everywhere. The phantom array was completely unable to withstand this powerful blow and collapsed directly, revealing the original appearance of the basement. Lu Ming was shocked, turned around and ran away. When he escaped from the basement, he felt happy, but after being thankful, he was filled with jealousy and murderous intent. When he calls the master over, won't these two people have to be at his mercy? By the time. Thinking in his heart, Lu Ming summoned the flying sword and stepped on it, and flew away. However, when he reached the air, he bumped into a transparent barrier and fell down. Goose Whitting and Shen Yazi stepped out step by step, looking at him with eyes that were cold to the bone. He opened his hand to grab Lu Ming and pulled him back, then used his coercion to pin him to the ground. Lu Ming spurted out a large mouthful of blood, his face was like gold paper, and his breath was exhausted. Suppressing the murderous intention in his heart, Goose Whitting took Shen Yazi's hand and said, "Zizi, how do you want him to die?" He couldn't imagine how his little girl would be treated if he came one step too late. This reptile-like disgusting thing dares to reach out to his Zizi. It would be a pity to die 10,000 times. There are 10,000 ways to make his life worse than death, but he still needs to ask Zizi for her opinion and let her vent. Shen Yazi was much better now, but the shameful longing still hit her body in waves, which made her hate Lu Ming even more. How could she be merciful?